Oh, sorry. Roll call, Chair Lisa Hanson present, Vice Chair Jacob Miller. Do I see Jake on here anywhere? All right, maybe he'll join us shortly. Alder Veronica Corpus-Dax.
Present.
Commissioner Sydney Bremer.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
And Commissioner Ken Ravinsky. And it looks like he's also not present. All right, and then moving on to the approval of the agenda for the November 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bremer, second by Alder Corpus-Dax. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to the approval of minutes from the November 8th, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
So moved.
Madam Chair, I see that Vice Chair Miller has joined us.
Yep, checking in. Thanks, Sid.
Oh, perfect. And I see Commissioner Ravinsky as well.
Commissioner Ravinsky. Yes.
Hello, my apologies.
So roll call on that. Vice Chair Miller,
Present.
Commissioner Ravinsky.
Present.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. And then going on with the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Alder Corpus-Dax and second by Commissioner Bremer. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to regular business and starting with a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter, and your comments and concerns. You confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We will now open the public hearing on item number 1, public hearing on a request to amend the city's property located in the 700 block of University Avenue from future land use designation of general industrial to other public or semi-public uses, submitted by Paul Davis, Kingdom Agenda Ministries, on behalf of Church of Living God International, Inc., property owner.
Would you like to give me want me to give a quick overview?
Yeah, if we could get just a brief overview before we open the public hearing.
Certainly. Let me share screen quick. All right, can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is basically the 6, 7, and 800 blocks of University Avenue. You can see the large building in the center is the transit center. Over to the left on the west side of North Quincy is the paper mill. To the east is the rest of the transit center and the firehouse, and then Webster Avenue. So this block itself, prior to 2006, kind of had a mix of land uses. In 2006, the transit center was developed. However, and the zoning was changed. However, the comprehensive plan was not. The petitioner had come in, you can see the two sort of green and red stars. They own these two properties on the corner of Harvey and Quincy. They came in to establish a religious institution on those properties, which facilitates the need to change the comp plan and then subsequently to change the zoning. So tonight, what you'd be talking about, what we're taking a public hearing on, is changing the comprehensive plan from that general industrial to an other public or semi-public, which is suitable for a church. Expanded area is just to do a cleanup.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, David. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from parties who are wanting to speak in favor of this item? If you can go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and you can go ahead and speak, please.
Kevin Heemstra. My address is 734 Chapel View Road, Apartment 3, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311.
And did you have any comments on this item?
Yeah, I'd like to see this passed. I think the neighborhood and the area that benefit from the church that we would like there. Changing the zoning would help us do that. We're a church that believes very strongly in community, and that really is our passion, community. And so reaching out help to meet what needs that are identified, and to basically just provide a place where people can come and do whatever they, whatever they do at church. It's just a regular church kind of activity, but we're all about people, and we really want to make a difference in the lives of the people that we interact with. And so I would be in total agreement with changing the zoning.
Thank you so much for your comments. Was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Yeah, I am Paul Davis. My current address is, it's 20, I just know how to get 2982 Clifford Court, Green Bay. My family and I have been a part of the Brown County and Green Bay area for since 2001. Our original ministry was located at 621, 623 Pine Street for several years, and we moved to the outskirts of Brown County. And we have completed and helped so many organizations along with ourselves, helping to develop not only the worshipers, but also community as well, as Kevin has spoken. And so we found that the location that we were in for the last several years wasn't conducive for what I believe that our ministry is able to do. So when we found this location close to the Greyhound and the Metro bus station, we believe that it can help us accomplish more of the things, items that we like to do. The community is wonderful, and we want to make sure that we have I won't say the blessing, but I want to make sure that we are doing things appropriate to complete our ministry within the guidelines of the commission and the city itself. So I'm Paul Davis, and of course I affirm that it should go through. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Hello, my name is Evelyn Tise. My address is 936 Christiana Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54303. And I support this item. I think it being in that location close to like a neighborhood and also close to the bus station would really be a good facility that would help to support those that go in that area.
And thank you so much for your comments. And I did forget to mention, if you are calling in on internet audio, it is *6 to unmute yourself. Was there anyone else looking to speak in favor of this item?
I'd like to speak. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, hi. My name is Paula Jackson. I am also a member of Kingdom Agenda. I am in support of this as well. Just that commute to church, to drive. It's the area that it's in, it's an awesome area. As a few others spoke to say about about what it's about is community and the love for people. And we need a place, of course, being in accessible to public transportation. I think, again, it's a wonderful location, and people being able to just give that people that does not have transportation, again, it's great. It's a place where we can all come together and worship God and feel the love. And I'm sorry, I didn't give my address. Let me kind of rewind and give that. Again, my name is Paula Jackson. I reside at 1681 Bond Street, Green Bay, 54303.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Jackson. I was just about to remind you, but you caught me ahead of time, so.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was about to ask you for that, but you remembered before I did.
Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Yes, my name is Barbara Davis. My address is 2982 Clifford Court, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. And I do approve and affirm that this be in our favor for this zoning. It's a perfect place for our ministry to go. We love people. We are about relationships in the community, and to being in a place, you know, that location gives us access to other things in the area. So yes, I'm totally for it. All we need is the yes, so we can be legal and keep moving.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
My name is Jackie Davis. It's 2982 Clifford Court, 54311. That's what I say, right?
Yeah, correct.
And I also think it's a really good idea to have a place that's easily accessible, that can help support others and what they need and what they're going through, because some people don't even have that.
Amen.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? All right. Is there anyone looking to speak in opposition to this item? Is there anyone wishing to provide information only? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Sorry, that's my 3-minute timer. All right, move on to the actionable item. Item number 2, consideration with possible action on a request to amend the city's comprehensive plan for property located in the 700 block of University Avenue from the future land use designation of general industrial to other public or semi-public uses, submitted by Paul Davis, Kingdom Agenda Ministries, on behalf of Church of Living God International, Inc., property owner.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so as you saw before, this is sort of the red line is the outline of the property that the city is comprehensive plan change. The 2 stars here are the petitioner's request. So as I had mentioned just before, Pastor Davis had came in and we discussed rezoning the parking lot and the building, changing the comp plan designation, and then following up with the rezone, which will actually be on December 13th at your next meeting. But when we did some exploratory analysis staff-wise, we realized that the larger area, and that is about 5 acres of area, needed to also, the comp plan needed to be cleaned up. So that kind of gives you an idea where this is the zoning for the property. So you can see the 2 properties of the petition, and then some additional properties along Quincy. The 2 southern ones being the driveway for the transit center, and then the center property being a auto service center. Our zone general industrial right now, but the rest of pretty much the rest of the block, with the one minor exception here, has been zoned public institutional. And again, this is the transit center and then also the firehouse. The long-term or future land use plan shows the original fire station and transit center, or transit stop at that time, I guess, as other public and semi-public. But you can see everything to the west had remained this gray general industrial future land use. And I do want to point out, and I did mention this to Pastor Davis as well in our conversations, that the neighborhood to the north is designated in future land use for general and then light industrial uses, sort of an expansion of the industrial area that's along Quincy that continues all the way up to basically Radisson. And then as you go further east, there's sort of this green, which is a buffer. It's a buffer to Webster, and it falls back into that neighborhood. Now, I want to make it clear that to the north there is a mix right now of housing, singles, two families, some multi, some commercial, some industrial. But again, this is long-term future land use. So, but I did want to point that out. This is sort of that line superimposed over an aerial photograph of the site. It's a little bit dated. This was Kimmer's Bar at one time. That's now gone. And there's a driveway that comes all the way out to North Quincy from the transit center. But you can see the transit center was built and expanded right into that area. This property on the corner was at one time a tavern. It had changed then to a couple different businesses afterwards. And I believe it's vacant currently. And then these are just some pictures of the site from different angles. So this is from the northeast looking down from North Quincy and Harvey. So you can see this is the building itself. This is from the southwest. So this is the corner. This is where Kimmer's Bar was at one time. It's the driveway. The building that we're talking about for this petition is right up here where the hand is. From the southeast, you can see the transit center. And then from the northeast, this is the back of the transit center. And then way far at the end of this block is the structure that we're talking about in parking lot. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the comprehensive plan amendment from general industrial to other and semi-public. And I do want to point out, and I love that we had all the testimony tonight, and that's great. The zoning, the actual zoning will come back December 13th. The reason that we have them staggered is the plan amendment takes a lot more public hearings. So by staggering them, the zoning at the next meeting, they'll end up at the council for final approval on January 18th or consideration at the same time. Because of the large area, we did notice all the property owners within 400 feet. We also noticed the Alderman Scannell for this district. He's not able to be on tonight, but I did speak with him today, and he's in full support of the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, thank you so much, David. So now again, that we're doing, this is the changing and the cleaning up the comprehensive plan. Zoning will be at our next meeting, December 13th. All right. Was there any discussion amongst the commission? Do we have any questions for staff?
You're muted, Sid.
That wasn't the question, but I appreciate the answer. Thank you very much. David, how about the auto repair there?
Correct. The auto repair would be considered a well, as far as the future land use goes, would be considered non-conforming to the future land use. Now, obviously it is there currently, and this action doesn't change the zoning. On the 13th, we'll be talking about that zoning, which we will also probably include in the rezone. The site itself would be legal non-conforming and grandfathered. They don't have any area to expand anyway. And not only for the church or the religious institution, but that change in future land use and zoning would facilitate an expansion of the transit center. That block is almost all public use right now. I did talk to the transit director. She said there's no imminent plans for any expansions. However, it is definitely in the realm of possibilities that they would need to go that way. And there is really have all the rest of the blocks. So, but to answer your question in a long breath, They would be grandfathered in with the zoning. The comprehensive plan really wouldn't affect their use at all.
Has the owner of that property been spoken to about this?
He's been notified by mail.
Okay,
We have not received any correspondence from any of the property owners within 400 feet.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question for Dave. You showed on that map, there was a portion that was further to the east that was not included in this, that was still in yellow. Is that going to be coming back next time, or will that be included at all? Or I guess what was the thought on not including that?
Well, that was really an oversight on my part. I didn't notice it. If I would have noticed it, I would have included it. That would be a comprehensive plan change. So there's really two options. We would include that in a future comp plan amendment. The zoning has been changed on it. No, the zoning has not. So we would change the comprehensive plan and the zoning. However, we are going to be starting our comprehensive plan update this coming year, and likely we'll fold it in there. That is currently used as the parking lot for the firehouse. So I don't think the negative impact of leaving it legal non-conforming, but yeah, we would definitely clean it up. It was just an oversight. I didn't notice it. It's kind of a little piece there. Another thing that we will be doing as well is if you noticed, there were a lot of property lines running around that block. We're going to be consolidating all those lots together just because it's cleaner. Something that should have probably been done in 2006.
Okay, and then could we include those in this motion here, or you would have to then re-notify?
We would have to re-notify.
Okay. I would, unless anyone has any other questions, I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Ravinsky and a second by Alder Corpus Dax. You're getting real close, DJ. Sorry. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I will go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move on to city council. When is the next council meeting? December
7th.
7th, okay. All right.
Yes.
But it wasn't, I thought it wasn't going through until January.
Yeah,
that correct?
for final action, it would go January 18th. So it would, yes. In conjunction with the zone change.
Right. The moving pieces all together in January, but this moving on first. Okay.
Right.
December
And
7th.
I would note that the supporters will want to at least have some of them there for that consideration by the Common Council, but this is a very good use of the transit right there.
All right. Okay, and then moving on to item number 3, which is a public hearing on a request to amend chapter 44-769, table 44-11, to permit tool equipment rental facility as a permitted principal use within the business park district, submitted by Randall J. Peterson on behalf of the estate of Kenneth Ward, property owner. And if we get a brief overview.
Real brief overview. As you mentioned, this is a text amendment. This would be amending the business park district within the industrial district in chapter 44-769. It would simply put a P in the category of tool equipment and rental facilities, where it doesn't exist right now. So it would make that type of use a permitted use by right.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. So then we're looking for parties who are looking to speak in favor of this item.
Good evening, members of the Plan Commission. My name is Alex Sickle, address 125 South Jefferson Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin 54301. I am the attorney working with the estate of Ken Ward, the current owner of the property. I'm joined tonight by Randall Peterson, Mr. Randall Peterson, and Mr. Brad Tremmel from Robert E. Lee and Associates. We approached the planning department regarding this as the property is currently under a letter of intent to sell to the current tenant. Tenant's been there for 2 years. The property that we're talking about is located at 2030 Coffin Drive. That's zoned business park district. What we've determined was that the business park district did not provide for the allowance of the tool and rental tool and equipment rental facilities. Currently, the tenant's Ideal Crane Rental, Wisconsin company based out of Madison, but with locations in Oshkosh, Milwaukee, throughout the state, which specializes in renting forklifts and other lifting equipment, telehandlers to different individuals, construction companies that utilize this. It is our intent to sell the property to Ideal Crane, and then they become the owner as opposed to tenant. What we believe is that this is consistent use with the other uses in Business Park. And in fact, it's an operating use for other properties that exist that are zoned Business Park that are actually doing this. We just want to make sure that this is permitted because for our tenant and possibly the buyer of the property, we want to make sure that they don't have any future issues with continuing operation of their crane and equipment rental business. So we've come and requested that the business park zoning district be amended to allow for this as an allowable use, and that's why we're approaching the commission tonight with that request. Again, I'm joined by Randall Peterson. He's the personal representative of the estate of Ken Ward. And then we have a Brad Tremmel from Robert E. Lee and Associates, who is assisting us with creating a site plan for the property. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your comments. Was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Yes. My name is Randy Peterson. Address is 29 Trissano Way, Green Bay. I am the personal representative that Alex mentioned for the estate of Kenneth B. Ward. I am very much in favor of moving forward with the amendment. Ken Ward passed away last February, and it was decided to sell the property. And in order to the offer to purchase does have a contingency relative to this amendment being approved. Individuals that are leasing the property are very concerned that they do it right, and therefore that's why we're moving forward with this request. I would say that business is not a tremendous, but as a former banker, I have had the opportunity to talk to other people about this operation, and it is a very, very successful business. Would make good business partners in the Green Bay community. I'm in favor.
Thank you so much for your comment. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anyone wishing to provide information only? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the actionable item, item number 4, consideration with possible action on a request to amend chapter 44-769, table 44-11 to permit tool equipment rental facility as a permitted principal use within the business park district, submitted by Randall J. Peterson on behalf of the estate of Kenneth Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you may recall, there's 3 industrial districts that we have: general industrial and business park. General is the heaviest. Light industrial is just what it says. It's lighter, typically with storage and warehousing. And business park is kind of a hybrid district. It kind of includes some of those light industrial uses as well as some almost kind of commercial overlap. When we talk about tool and equipment rental facility, that's an established that rents tools, lawn and garden equipment, party supplies, and other goods, and as well as incidental storage and maintenance of those. In this case, we also have development standards that apply. Really, this requires that, again, the hybrid between the commercial and you look at the definition, it kind of maybe initially looks more like commercial, but we also apply this as an industrial application. So we're kind of allowing for some of that heavier equipment maybe to transition into that business park district, which we believe is appropriate. Again, these standards we've adopted for storage will come in handy in the business park. We updated these in 2014. This will kind of limit any sort of outdoor display and storage that will occur as a result of this potential change. We did include a copy of the draft ordinance. There isn't much to that draft ordinance, but the staff is recommending approval of the request to include tool equipment and rental as a permitted use in the business park district.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. Go ahead, Commissioner Bremer.
Oh, the one thing that I noticed that I was a little worried about, just so we didn't mess anything up. The top line of the table does not indicate the 3 classes of districts that this would apply to, at least that I could see. I'm presuming those are the 3 kinds of districts that you referenced earlier. Business park was one of them, I believe, right?
Right. So if we're looking at the table, it would be light industrial in the first column, general industrial, and then in the far right column would be the business park district.
Okay. I would like to presume that that's a part of the material that you're bringing to us for approval then.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you.
Was there any further discussion amongst the commission?
Makes a lot of sense. I would move to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion by Vice Chair Miller and a second by Commissioner Bremer. Was there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead with a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward unanimously to the next Common Council meeting on December 7th.
But it'll take 2 readings of the ordinance. So December 7th and December 21st will be the second one.
Right, okay, all right. Okay, and then moving on to item number 5, consideration with possible action on a request to approve the site plan for a residence hall at 3390 Walter Way as part of the UW Green Bay campus, submitted by University Housing Inc. developer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for site plan approval. Typically, the Planning Commission doesn't see too many site plans. We do that administratively. However, in this case, with the housing project proposed here on the GB campus, the housing entity is using the Green Bay Housing Authority for some funding sources or bonding, I believe. And as part of that, the Green Bay Housing Authority is reaching out to the Plan Commission to make sure this project is appropriate and code compliant. So that's why it's before you tonight. The request is for the construction of a residency hall. If you can see the layout here, this is the Mothy Center, the Crest Event Center to the south, and this is the location of the new residence hall. Some expanded parking as well as expanded parking up in this area here. This is a 4-story, 232 student residence hall. There's some elevations that are provided by the architect. There's more details that are included in your packet. I'm just going to scroll through some highlighted areas here, some layouts of the rooms, the interior views as well. We've also included a resolution that's been asked for, so we'll take care of that after the meeting or in the future, I guess. The construction is scheduled for spring of 2022, I believe, with hopefully completion by the fall semester of 2023. With that said, staff believes this meets all the standard requirements that we would look at as a preliminary and final site plan. And we'll recommend approval of the request for the site plan approval, as well as the resolution for the chair to consider signing at a future date.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. Any questions for staff or discussion amongst the commission?
I do have a couple comments. It's a great Berner Schobler design, I think, and will really enhance the appearance of the campus and the area right next to the ecumenical center there. I think it's well placed. I would hope that they will strive with the site plan to minimize the loss of trees in that area. I know there are quite a few there. And obviously some of the building will have to take those trees away, but to minimize that. And I would hope as well that they would explore the possibility of additional solar units on that roof that might provide energy for other buildings on the campus or in that student housing area. Those are purely suggestions on my part, but your report, Paul, asked for any input that we might have, and that would be the two pieces that I would add.
Madam Chair, it looks like we have someone from the public. I would move to open the floor.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Revensky, second by Commissioner Bremer to open the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and if there's someone from the public looking to speak, if you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Keith Pamprin. I reside at 1499 Rockdale Street in Green Bay. I'm a volunteer member of the University Village Housing Incorporated, which is a not-for-profit that develops and owns the residence halls on the university campus. I, by the way, was with the planning department for 38 years, the housing and community development administrator. So this is old home week coming back and seeing Paul and the staff. I also have Steve Strubus, our architect from Berner Schober, is also with us this evening if you have any technical questions. The uniqueness of this project is that the Green Bay Housing Authority would be issuing housing mortgage revenue bonds to finance the development. They have done this over the years. I think we have over 17 properties that have been developed so far. This was by far the largest and I think one of the best. The financing allows us to have a lower rate of interest, which allows us to keep the resident hall fees for the students more competitive and lower. And of course, the more students we have on campus, the more the university can grow which is their goal. So I would request that you approve this request and forward it on to this Common Council.
Thank you so much for your comments. there
Steve,
anyone-
there was a question regarding the solar panels. Steve, you might want to handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Steve Service. I'm representing Berner Schober, 310 Pine Street. Miss Bremer, you could just do that all day long. Thanks so much. We had the roofs covered in solar, at least for the concept. The guys that actually designed that system, it's for solar preheat on the water system, domestic hot water. Dialed back because that will tend to all of this building and then potentially a future phase too. So there are plenty of solar panels up there for the domestic hot water for the building. There's a little bit of redundancy in the design is the best way to phrase that. So as always, the university and certainly Up High has got a node to sort of that EcoU, and that's part of the design components, including the solar thermal domestic hot water up on the roof. And to your question regarding preservation of as many of the trees and landscaping as possible, this development's in the middle of a parking lot. So we'll have to expand that east parking lot a little bit, like Mr. Newmeyer had mentioned, to accommodate the loss in parking, but we are trying to make as minimal of a footprint as we can.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for those comments.
Lisa, I might have a quick question just on parking since we're talking about it. In regards to the one that looks like it's getting a larger expansion, that just seems like a lot of space that's all being covered up. I would usually expect to be a little bit more of a break in there of landscaping. I don't know if that was just not possible or considered, but that is a very, very large parking lot up there with very little ways to get that water runoff. And maybe it's being addressed otherwise, but that just looks big for what I would consider.
No, can I keep going? Is that okay?
Take it, Steve, yeah.
Yeah, Jake, you're absolutely right. We did pursue a variance last week just for those few exceptions on landscaping within the parking lot itself. The argument was and approved by the Board of Appeals was that we could expand that parking lot to keep the parking lot the same and include interior green space, but by doing so, we'd just be removing green space. So in the sense of a whole campus of however many 1,300 acres or whatever crazy size they have, it was about keeping that footprint minimal and keeping the campus as green as it could stay. So they approved it. Was Mr. Newmeyer, was that last week, Monday or so? But you're definitely not lost on you that is a huge parking lot.
Yeah, understood. It'd be cannibalizing from some other area of green space eventually. It was a little shocking to see it quite that big, but
yeah.
yeah.
Most of it's existing parking lot that's getting turned back in and topped, of course, but just expanding on the loss from the west side. Thanks.
Thanks for the clarification.
I didn't see it on the site plan, but is there talk of like pervious pavement, or is that something that's just out of the budget?
Well, so the budget right now reflects as minimal of a hole as possible, and then essentially resurfacing the two lots. So as much as we love, I'm not quite sure that we've got quite the dollars to entertain some of the newer systems that are out there.
Were there any other questions for the petitioner?
I'd make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Commissioner Bremer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and the floor is now closed.
I guess I would just like to add one. I don't think enough people say this to city employees. So Keith, thank you for your service. That's a long time to put in at City Hall, so good work there. Paul, I think you're probably catching up on years there, huh? But otherwise, no, I think the design is great. I would make a motion to approve.
And I would happily second, having spent many, many years of my professional life on that campus. I'm glad to see such a handsome building go in.
Having spent many less years than Sid, but getting my degree at UWGB and living on campus, I know how important it is to have updated, good-looking campus facilities, especially for the living quarters. So it's definitely important, especially want to see my. So yes, definitely behind it as well.
Perfect. All right. So a motion by Commissioner Residency and a second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. And then that will move forward then to the Common Council meeting on December 7th. Moving on to informational report, Mr. Sexualty.
Evening, everybody. How are you? So, nothing super detailed reports from our previous meeting. We do continue to see quite a few projects here trying to kind of make the mad dash towards the end of the year here to try to get done. We've actually had to have 2 RDA meetings here this past month to kind of get through everything. So we are proceeding on a couple projects that we're moving forward here again. Most notably, the Legacy Hotel project over in the Legends District has come forward. Essentially, after almost a kind of a year delay for that project, essentially the project has actually increased from 77 rooms to 100 rooms and is actually adding an additional story to the project. So that for once a delayed project actually came out, worked in our favor a little bit. We got a little bit bigger project. Dave Buck has been working from staff, has been working with them on making sure that they meet the design requirements really for the Legends District. So assuming that they're able to do that, that will not be coming forward back to this body, assuming they mean that. Dave, that's correct?
No, I just discovered today they will need to come back. They'll be back December 13th for a height exception, for the use and a height exception.
And again, as from staff's perspective, good problem to have. A little bit bigger project, so we're good there. So good there. The TWG, the rail yard project has come back and is that will be coming back to this body here. Been a little bit of a roller coaster for that developer. They lost an investor. This is the site that has the elevator shafts standing over there on Broadway. So they have been working to try to bring that back. They are changing that project from a market rate project to more of a affordable project with a mix of about 80-20. The design itself is largely the same. Essentially, it's actually, I think it's entirely the same. So those issues are that way. The one key issue that will be kind of coming back to this body, I think, for some discussion will be the actual mix of uses on the first floor. I think both this body, council, and staff was very intentional about trying to maintain a level of activity on that first floor. They are looking to try to maybe convert some of those uses into either residential uses or non. They have maintained a reduced commercial, essentially part of the building on that first floor, but not to the intent that was originally planned. So they have made some other items and trying to move some things around, like their community room for the building has been put down to the first floor. They're working on actually having some, I think maybe some first floor entrances along the Kellogg Street entrances to actually have some degree of activation, but it's certainly not to the level that was originally proposed on the site. So they're certainly going to need to be some discussion, and we'll be bringing that forward here. I don't know, Dave, if we have a date when we think that might happen. Which meeting? You're muted, buddy.
Thank you, Lisa. Darius, I didn't get the sign from you. December 13th.
Thanks to DJ. DJ got that for me.
You'll have a nice full meeting on December 13th. So yes, we'll be back.
We can be back as well. So so we are seeing some, again, it's a good level of projects. Most of, again, these are ones that have been obviously in the works for a while, but are coming back. hopefully to get restarted. And folks, we have a couple other ones that will be coming back in the future as well. I think one is a newer one as the 222 Cherry Street project here. Folks, that's where the boss, I think the shop, the single level commercial building that's right downtown here on Cherry Street. They originally, that was apparently the old Masonic Temple Lodge building that actually had multiple stories on it. They've done an architectural study on that and realized that they lost those floors due to a fire. Obviously, that architecture still could support additional floors. So we have a developer looking to come back and actually add at least 3 stories back to that building. So very exciting, probably residential use. We'll be asking for some TIF assistance as well to kind of help make that happen, but kind of an excited reuse. And we're really excited because there won't be any environmental issues we have to worry about on this one because it's already found, so they won't have to do too much there.
That's so random. Like, how do you even come across that?
That was, I think finally the current building owner either knew about it and another developer approached them and asked them about it. So obviously, and I certainly, I wouldn't want to be the architect responsible to making sure that building could hold those stories of building. Whoever they're paying that individual, whoever they may be, God bless them, because that's a big, your math better be pretty on before you start making those kinds of promises. So, but an exciting project for downtown, not one that certainly that was anticipated by any stretch of the imagination, but excited to be moving forward with that one as well. So we were seeing those types of projects moving forward, both 1 or 2 new ones, as well as kind of hopefully getting a couple of these older ones back to the finish line again. So we're planning on keeping you folks busy, probably through the end of the year and probably into the beginning of next year. So happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Neil, I do have one quick question. With that rail yard project changing, going to more affordable units, that fits in with some of the other units. I think isn't Broadway Lofts, or I think that fits into that area, correct?
That's absolutely correct, Mr. Daniels. I think the Broadway Lofts is actually, I'm trying to remember what the actual unit mix is there. It's mostly 60%, I believe. So this is exactly at that same level, being 80-20% mix. There is, staff did have some degree of concern, at least initially, thinking about making the switch in terms of the concentration of in one particular location, basically being right next to each other. Because they are kind of holding them at that 60% level. Certainly that lessens the concern a little bit, but still it is something we want to be very sensitive to in that area. We know there's been a lot of other changes in this immediate neighborhood where that's been certainly, we don't want to be too concentrated with those types of uses there without, kind of eyes wide open. The issue is certainly the building is going to be, is excellent. The architecture has not changed. We think the value of the building will certainly be, from a construction standpoint, will be the same. But we certainly want eyes wide open a little bit in terms of, we think if this ends up being approved here, we need to be very, very intentional, I think, of trying to distribute more affordable units really throughout the area, especially in downtown. So it was a point of concern, but we believe that it can be addressed largely through any concerns relating to the management of the property. Again, we kind of trying to point of saying when staff has reviewed these, is guys, the fact that something's an affordable unit does not mean it's going to cause trouble. That's not a fair statement. That's not something we really want to perpetuate in any way, shape, or form. It does really come down to the developer and the owner of the project and how well they manage the property. So TWG has been very amenable to sitting down and working with staff to add some additional language into the current development agreement to kind of maybe help bolster that a little bit, to put the city and the community in a little bit better position. So
I think awesome. And quickly I'm sorry, just to follow up on that, then does that change any kind of concessions that were made to the higher end homes or the developer that's in front of that? Does that change anything with what concessions that were made for that developer?
I think the only ones I think were really probably the first floor mix, DJ, in terms of the land use, which obviously that needs to come back to this body. So that's what's coming back to you folks. The rest of the project is largely, the design is essentially the same. It's really just the targeted of affordability of the unit, but the design, the rest of the building structure should be the same except for that first floor. We are.
No, I'm sorry. I was.
You talking about the fort itself?
No, I was to clarify with any concessions that were made to the developer for I think the base company of the higher end homes that are, or condos that are right in front of the,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the
I
one,
see
the only
David
concern,
waving his hand.
yeah, I'll get him to just here. There will be some issues. The one certainly we're looking at it in terms of what I'm looking at, DJ, is from a land use standpoint is not as much, but really from what the impacts to the TIF request and for that the entire Fort project. I think they were counting on a market rate project would have been considerably valued, considerably higher than that. So I think there are some concerns in terms of how we get all the rest of the public infrastructure for that area, the sidewalks, stormwater, everything else that's still yet to be developed in there. So we do have some concerns, and we're actually meeting with base companies and DDL properties tomorrow, in fact, to talk about where we kind of go from here in terms of how we would do that. But David, you got something else you want to add there?
Good luck.
Yeah, I was just going to make the statement that this it's not on the agenda, it hasn't been noticed. You probably shouldn't be discussing details at this meeting. Should wait till the next one. but say that no.
Oops. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Neil.
Sounds exciting.
I was just going to add, I listened into that RDA meeting and there was extensive talk, and it seems like city staff has a pretty good handle on what's going on over here. So excited to see that coming forward. So it was exciting to see that start, and now it'll be exciting to see it finish. So
keep going. Absolutely, Ken.
And I don't know, can I add one more thing? Before we sign off, you'll notice Autumn is not with us today. She had her resignation. She's taken a job in Madison and is therefore no longer a resident of the city. So we will be looking for and getting a new commissioner appointed as soon as possible.
Will you convey our congratulations to her, please?
Yeah, I wanted to say something during roll call, but I didn't know if that was appropriate at that point. So, but yeah, definitely thank her for being on the commission with us. And congratulations on her move and new job.
Has she ever been in a in-person meeting with us, or has she always been online?
Oh,
DJ never has either, or Ken.
You haven't, DJ?
I've never been chair at
no?
a meeting.
I don't think you
we
in person either.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we talked about it then. We were like, we could say virtual.
Wow, I'm surprised.
All right. Oh,
I'm
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, the date of the next meeting is December 13th, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Motion by Alder Corpustak, second by Commissioner Ravinsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
To everybody.
Adjourned.
All right.